Hello and welcome to Breakfast All Day. Oh, do we have a treat for you now? So I don't know how it's possible, but Matt actually lived to be 49 years old and never see Dirty Dancing. I don't know how it's possible.
I saw it on this one.
Unbelievable.
How is it that when you were like 16 when this came out, how did you not see it?
Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made.
So what that we do
We all have our gaps.
Right.
Because things have been stressful lately, Matt had the really good idea that we should go back and talk about a happy movie.
Right.
And
I'll also add in that, look, like we've been covering a lot of indie movies, and we, our Patreon subscribers, our Patreon people get to help us pick some movies. But I thought while we were going through this hunkering down and staying in place, we should pick some older classic, maybe not classic, but some movies that everybody's heard of, but maybe haven't caught up on. And because yesterday, Thursday, the 26th, was Jennifer Grey's birthday, I thought, we should do Dirty Dancing because I had never seen it.
wow.
It came out in 87?
Mm-hmm.
So I was in high school, and at the time, I was not the open-minded film aficionado that I am now. And it was like, girl movie. And I just never got around to it. Now, I will say, I've mentioned this to Christy the other day, my secret favorite genre of movies actually is dance movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down and watched this the other day. And what a mistake I made not watching this previously. This movie's terrific.
So you get it then. You get why it was a phenomenon.
I get it. And
Okay.
I'm unironically saying this is a really, really good movie.
Okay.
Is it predictable? Sure. Are there some cheesy lines in it? Sure. And my biggest complaint with the movie is the contemporaneous music from 87 that shows up in this period movie. Most obnoxiously, the famous Time of My Life song played as a single in the climax of the movie, right? Like in the big, I get
There's
it.
a lot that shouldn't. There's a lot that shouldn't work in this movie, and that is one of the big things. Like hungry eyes, should not be in this movie, but you just wind up
like the wind,
Do not even begin to call out "She's Like the Wind." Patrick Swayze wrote that song.
Now I will say,
step off on that right now.
Look, that song is not bad, and do an arrangement.
You become a woman to that song.
Do a period correct arrangement of that song. Fine. But and there's a Pointer Sisters song in this.
No. I think you're talking about Yes, which is actually sung by Mary Clayton, who was one of the. She's in 20 Feet from Stardom. She's one of the. Sympathy for the Devil backup singers.
Yeah, but
it's a very synthy 1987 song that gets shoehorned into this 1960s movie.
Right, and you could have a movie, and granted this is a different movie, but Big Chill doesn't do that, and that has this monstrously popular soundtrack. They're not putting contemporaneous songs in that movie. That was a very deliberate choice. And actually, because of Big Chill, I think that made a movie like this possible, because that movie made so much money on its retro soundtrack that I'm sure that was one of the selling Big Chill
points.
Before this?
Yes. It was
Big Chill was 84, 83,
okay.
83.
Right.
But it's bizarre to think about a time that we lived in which songs from movies were huge radio hits, right? And the fact that The Time of My Life was on the radio all the time, and that whole soundtrack was so big that they came out with a whole second soundtrack of just music from that era. And
I have that one.
And it's so funny. And the people were taking Dirty Dancing
classes. They put the Kellerman
classes.
song on the second one.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but there was it was a thing, like when swingers was a thing, and people would go and learn swing dancing. People went and learned how to dirty dance. It became a total cultural phenomenon.
No, look, the dancing is terrific in this, and it's Kenny Ortega, right?
Choreographed, yes.
Choreographed, who had either, I don't remember if it was he that had studied under Gene Kelly or studied with someone that had studied under Gene Kelly. And one of the great things about Patrick Swayze as a dancer is that, like Gene Kelly, he understands how to make dance be an art that's not seen as merely effeminate, which was a lot of knocks that male dancers would get all the time.
You look at like the two major movie dancers of like, the kind of classic era musicals. You have Fred Astaire, who's like almost always in a tuxedo or wearing a tie or very, like elegant and lean and lithe and whatever. And then Gene Kelly, sleeves rolled up, like, much
he's
more kind
virile.
of like
he's a working man.
guy. Exactly.
Right.
Sailor, dancing. And so those are sort of the two kind of popular up until, for a long time in American movies, that's what dancing looked like. And yeah, Swayze is definitely of the Kelly school. He's very much like, working class guy, but like energetic and athletic but still like very, talented and graceful.
Well, so the other thing I was kind of amazed at, and I probably wouldn't have seen at the time, and so I'm somewhat glad that I've seen this when I've seen it, is that this movie is shockingly transgressive in that, seriously, like this
abortion subplot.
Well, but yes, there's that part of it, but Baby pursues Johnny, right? Like Johnny doesn't seduce her. Baby goes out and chases Johnny down, and Johnny is not Johnny's a good guy, but like he's a himbo in this movie. Absolutely, like I mean, he's not far off the character that Chris Thor
Hemsworth?
Chris Hemsworth is playing in Ghostbusters, right? Like if you had the genders reversed in this, you would call his character an absolute bimbo. Like, sure, got some deeper thoughts and had a rough life, but like he's certainly not any deeper than his dance partner.
And that like she's going to go off to college, and this will be like the summer that changed everything, and he's going to be like the sort of dappled memory figure that will play in like her first novel,
right? But what this movie does, which I think is really interesting for 1987, is that this movie makes it okay for Baby to have this summer fling where she has sex with this dude a bunch, and it's okay. And like she's not
in the Reagan era to have the villain reading Ayn Rand,
exactly right. I was like, oh god, but for her to not, and I get that some of this is based on the screenwriter's experience as kind of a mambo queen in that scene in the 60s, but I found it really kind of amazing that this is a young woman who has agency, who owns her sexuality and makes and isn't punished for it. And isn't even to the point of like, you get the feeling like this is a fond memory. This is not like, oh, I had this fling and it never was, and I'll never forget this guy. And he's the one that got away. It's like, man, this was awesome. And you get to see dude characters do that all the time. But, especially 1987, this is a movie that was kind of shocking for that. Coupled with like when she has the argument with her father, she's like, you told me I could be anything. And when I go and do my own way and try and reach out and change the world, you're mad that I'm doing it a different way. And she wins that argument. You see her father break down and be upset that she's right.
Also, she causes him to come around on the idea of abortion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's about getting in trouble. It's about someone getting somebody else in trouble. And he comes around on the idea that these are not all awful people. These are human beings who need help. And so he comes to Penny's aid and changes how he feels about Johnny. So there is also a shocking amount of enlightenment for a Reagan-era feel-good mainstream dance romance.
I would love to read more about the Jewishness of this movie because it's sort of overt and covert at the same time. Like if you watch the second season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, much of which takes place at a summer camp that is not unlike Kellerman's, it's very much in the forefront, and it's very much presented as like, the Goyisha have, like Kennebunkport or wherever they go, the Hamptons, we all go to the Catskills, and this is where, we do our thing. And, I think that's one of the underlying things about like Baby's kind of brand of budding liberalism, that she wants to join the Peace Corps, and she's very JFK minded, and like Johnny being like super Gentile. I think it's not, they don't connect a lot of the dots for you, but it's all there. It's all kind of woven in and out of the way that this world is presented and how the older people behave and what their attitudes are about certain things and how the dinners work, all that stuff. If you're looking for it, I think there's a lot of detail there that's really interesting.
And there's some other interesting, like even some of the little stuff it does, like after the big dance number where they have to go to the other club, right? The whole thing that gets her started dancing. And she's so apologetic that she didn't do the lift. And you know, there's a lot of like the cliche would be he yells at her and he gets mad, but he's not. He's like, no, it's okay. You did really well. Right. And there's a, like, this is a movie that like, oh, this is a movie written from a female perspective and it has the female gaze and you know, and the dance scenes are really well done. The scene where they're messing around to Love is Strange is so sexy.
It's very cute and playful.
Yeah. You know, and I love the scene. It's not very long shot, but the scene where she's first learning to mambo and Johnny's got her in front and then the blonde is behind her.
Penny.
And
oh yes, also very hot.
That's very hot. And especially the way who's looking at who in that scene is fascinating. And there's so much, you know, and look, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I felt like there's a lot of communication and drama just in the way which character's eyes are on which person during that dance. Yeah, I was
because Penny and Johnny have, you know, are platonic but close, and she's concerned about him getting involved with this guest, but at the same time needs this guest to do her this favor. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of stuff that's being communicated there about like, what do you do? You know, while also, you know, the principal action remains of the people learning the dance.
Right. Yeah, I slept on this movie. It's terrific.
Well, I saw it repeatedly for you, Matt. I sobbed.
A lot.
At age 15 at the UA Warner Center in Woodland Hills, no longer there. And even though I knew how it was going to end, I think I cried hard a second time because it's just so tragic. They can't be together. You know, as much as like you see societal change occur within this film and you see minds and hearts open up, like clearly she can't be with him. Right? They can't, like where they are in terms of the societal hierarchy of things and just intellectualism and reality.
They probably shouldn't, really.
And they shouldn't.
That's the real tragedy. Is that like you know that they don't have a future. They should just grasp this moment and get on with it. I saw this movie a lot of times.
But I think
I was 20. Hang on, I was 20 when it came out. I was maybe old enough to know better, but it just I was always giving me pleasure watching this movie that I had seen it in years, but I had a period there certainly in my like early to mid 20s where it was just the very kind of comfort food. If it was on, I would watch it. And you know, Dave hates it. It's one of the sticking points in our relationship, but I've always found it really charming.
Why does he hate it? Because he thinks it's just schlocky and formulaic.
Yes, yeah. He thinks it's
that's why it's good.
Exactly.
I don't agree that it's that formulaic. Like, for instance, you know, yes, I get that there's a tragedy that they're not together at the end, but when Johnny first gets fired, spoiler alert, if you're like
too soon, man.
And there's that scene where he's driving off and he basically says to her, like, well, I guess this is it, you know, goodbye. And he kind of just drives off, and there's not like tears. There's not the you know, the breakdown of like, oh my God, like, because I feel like all along, Baby's kind of like, yeah, I'm having fun with this and I kind of love him, but I'm going to have somebody else to love. And this is fun. And I'm enjoying it.
Really not defined by him, which is unusual I think, for a lot of movies where the guy becomes everything. And it's like, no, they meet and they each bring different things to the relationship. And it's very, you know, it's powerful and explosive, but yeah, like neither one is sort of defining the other one or you know, completing the other one in the Jerry Maguire sense. So yeah, it's very clear-eyed, I think, about what's happening here and what isn't happening here.
It's also a really good example, as you pointed out, Alonso. It is one of those summer that changed everything movies is a really good example of that, and of using that time frame for the ephemeral nature of it and the tension that fleeting nature, can have. So,
although they do really like play that up when Kellerman towards the end is like, man, everything's changed. It's all going to be different. 22 countries in 3 days. Like, okay.
You get the feeling he gives that speech at the end of every summer, though.
Right.
But it's true that those kind of resorts, their days were numbered at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Matt, so now that you've seen it, what's your number?
I'd give this an 8.5. Like, some minor complaints, especially around the music. And the other thing, because we didn't even talk about how great her father is in this.
Jerry Orbach.
Jerry Orbach is great.
Oh,
his hair is perfect. And in fact, his hair is so perfect when he gets out of bed to go take care of Penny, his hair is still perfect. So I think he spends a lot of time drinking pina colada at Trader Joe's.
Oh.
But 8.5.
Okay, I'm saying 8. I'm saying 8. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I have really fond memories of it, and I think it would probably still put a giant smile on my face if I
it holds up really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it an 8. It is a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles. It's not substantial, but I'm never going to turn it down.
But it is an undeniable classic, and it was a phenomenon, and there's no way of denying any of that. So,
and look, for women of a certain age who have really fixated on that movie and really respond to it strongly, I get it. I totally know where that's coming from. Yeah, no, I mean, I think there weren't a lot of movies that kind of spoke to female characters in that way at that time. And yeah, I think you're right. There is a definite, even though it's directed by Emile Ardolino, who was mainly known for an Oscar-winning dance documentary about Jacques d'Amboise called "He Makes Me Feel Like Dancing."
But he also did
a lot.
Sister Act.
He later did Sister Act, yes. But there's a lot of the female POV from the screenwriter for Eleanor Bergstein, I think, is very strong, and the way that he allows Swayze to be sexualized. In a way that women and young gay boys could enjoy was pretty unusual for that period, and even now probably.
Is this peak Swayze or is Roadhouse peak Swayze?
I think this is peak Swayze because it doesn't fall into camp.
I think this is peak Swayze for women and gay men, and Roadhouse is peak for straight men and Dave White.
Wait a minute, you're going to tell me that gay men don't appreciate the nude scenes of Patrick Swayze and
Oh, we appreciate
Roadhouse?
them. But I mean, Roadhouse is a ridiculous movie, and Dirty Dancing is a different kind of ridiculous, and I think it's more effective. But
it really is a beautiful showcase for everything that he did so beautifully.
No question.
I was so redundant just now, but it's a great opportunity to show his virility, his sexiness, his comic timing.
You're talking about Roadhouse.
No.
His hair is also very 1987 in Dirty Dancing, by the way.
It's a mullet. Is it mullet adjacent?
Ish. It's funny. I remember I was interning at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that summer, and he came to the office to interviewed by Eleanor Ringel, our film critic, and there was a hush. The ladies were all a Twitter when he walked through the floor. It was like, Patrick Swayze's here.
He's a star.
And the movie hasn't even come out yet.
Oh my God. Oh, that was just
after
the movie came out.
I think they were excited about, I don't know, Red Dawn or, The
Outsiders. All right. Well, good call, Matt. That was fun to revisit that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday,
the last thing I want to
Jennifer.
say, if you've been watching this and you've never seen this or you haven't seen it in years, I think this holds up. And I would, and again, if you're a dude like me that always thought, oh, this is some stupid girl movie. Again, I have a secret love, or not so secret anymore, love for dance movies. This movie's terrific. Go back and watch it.
Okay.
So yes, thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you'd like to see more of our reviews of classic movies, we do them with some regularity over at our Patreon page, exclusively for our subscribers at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Also do another fun stuff over there, talking about Westworld and The Plot Against America and Tiger King. So do visit us there. Thanks for watching, you guys. Check us out. Bye.
Thanks. See you next week. Bye.